Will the newest card to enter Marvel Snap bring a surge to your win rate? Find out what's going on as I hereby invite everyone to join me on my adventures through Marvel Snap. Hey everybody, it's Annabelle. So we got a brand new season, and that means it's time for some brand new cards. And this time around, we are talking about the new X-Men. And the first card we got in the new X-Men season is going to be Surge. Surge was born in Japan. She ran away from her home after her powers manifested when she was a teenager, because her father did not believe in mutants. She came to the United States and ended up homeless on the streets. With no training or practice in use of her powers, her body would automatically absorb all nearby electricity and, once fully charged, release it in a storm of electrical bolts. She could find no treatment for these problems until a discharge got a group of young mutants to notice her and bring her back to the X-Mansion. Surge was very happy to become a student of the Xavier Institute and get off the streets. This is where Beast would help her design a pair of gauntlets for her that could regulate her absorption of ambient electricity and then discharge of it. She also got some help dealing with the mental overload that she was exposed to from living on the streets. And when the school started to adopt a squad system, she was assigned to the New Mutant Squad, where she worked hard and eventually got chosen to be the leader of the new X-Men. Surge cannot control the absorption of her electricity without her gauntlets to regulate it. If she is around any kind of magnets or magnetism without them, even the simplest application of her powers will have the ability to cause her to quickly spiral out of control. She has removed her gauntlets to use all of her power in the past, but she only does this on dire need. As if she absorbs too much energy, it'll cause her to have a mental overload, making her speak too fast, scattering her thoughts and worsening her control over her blast. And then she will black out. Surge is very forthright and strong-minded. She often clashes with her peers and superiors. She's considered herself a feminist and loves getting into a good brawl. She is loyal and honest and knows that if the world outside is a very cold place. She knows that the students are not fully safe in the Institute, and she will not sugarcoat this fact for new recruits. She's dedicated to her friends and increasingly has worries about the responsibilities placed upon her as leader of the new X-Men. She takes it upon herself to mold the team into an effective unit. Surge absorbs electricity continuously from all sources like static in the air, electrical appliances, and outlets, which often cause the lights around her to flicker. She cannot control this absorption and has to wear specially designed gauntlets, or her body will fully charge and automatically discharge this electricity. When she has her gauntlets on, she can discharge this electricity through a powerful lightning blast or into superhuman acceleration. The energy field that Surge generates can also grant the young X-Men enhanced abilities or energy projection as well. Surge is a young unit with electrical-based powers who can grant her new teammates with her superhuman acceleration, but requires regulators not to hurt herself. This is represented in Marvel Snap, as she will help out your next teammate with her superhuman acceleration, but will regulate herself to just that one as not to overexert herself. So in Marvel Snap, what this card actually says is this is a 2-cost, 2-power that has the description of on reveal. It will give the next card on top of your deck -1 cost and +1 power. And after you play it, it will repeat this ability. That is kind of an over-exaggeration of what this card does and kind of a misrepresentation of what this card does. Because what this card really does is, once you play it down on the field, it'll give this text, the text of this card of Surge, to the top card of your deck, and then reduce its cost by 1 and then give it +1 power. This kind of makes it a weird kind of card to play because it really limits how many other cards you can play with. And because of that simple ability that Surge has, it really brings down her star level, which brings her all the way down to a 2-star rating, which is what this rating I gave her as. So let me go over some of the things that causes her to go all the way down to a 2-star. So whoever designed this card really did their homework. And kudos to whoever designed this card for really doing their homework, because they made this card so it really wouldn't be super broken. So it doesn't work with stuff like Deadpool. Now, it'll still give the Deadpool the -1, so if you get Deadpool on the Surge, if you draw Deadpool from the Surge, it'll be a 0/1, so you can play it constantly at the 0 instead of 1 cost, but it won't retain the ability of giving that energy chain down the line. Which is really something kind of interesting that you kind of only know once you start using this card. It's basically the same equivalent as a Psylocke. The closest card that you're going to come to is comparing this to is a Psylocke, because all in all, it is a Psylocke, just that can be used more than once. It'll give your card +1 energy, basically speaking, and it'll give your card +1 power. So it's actually a better version of Psylocke for the same cost and the same power. It's just that you can't use the cards that are currently in your hand. You only can use the card that you drew, so you get that drawback of you have to go on the next card that you draw. Now, you don't have to play that card the next turn. It'll still keep that charge regardless of what you do. But it does have the flaw of it can't really go into a million different places. It's kind of like almost how Fastos works, where it gives the +2 power and the -1 cost, but instead of going 50-50, it just does some top card. If you do happen to bounce back a card that got hit by the Surge, it will not have Surge's power again, even if you bounce back the Surge itself. So stuff like Kitty Pryde doesn't work with her in any way, shape, or form. It'll work the one time to make her a 0, or work the one time to make her a 0/2 per se, but then she will make your next card get double charges on it. Like I said, whoever designed this really came up and really did it well. Just to be cautious, if you ever get a Cosmo off this, the Cosmo will not continue the chain. So if your Surge ever hits your Cosmo, your chain is done as soon as you play the Cosmo, since the Surge effect is now thrown on top of the Cosmo, and the Surge effect can't work because it's an activate effect. On-reveal effect, sorry. And Cosmo stops the on-reveal from happening. So even if Cosmo is in a different lane than your Surge is, and you play that card into the Cosmo lane, it will break your chain. And if you get on the Cosmo, your chain is broken no matter what. Now, it is interesting because if you do set the power of your stuff higher, with something like Agent Venom, like you change a 1 into a 3, it'll still become a 4 off of the power of the Surge, but then you gotta keep that chain going. Also remember, it kind of works a little bit like Fire Hair, where it kind of has that pass-on ability that Fire Hair has, where you have to make sure where you're playing that card each and every turn and make sure that you know what cards you're using on that so that you can try to keep that chain going. One of the better cards it is used for is Brood. To get a Brood down to a 2/3 is kind of very good. The problem is you can't control what your top card's going to be, so you can't really rely on that brood. Even if you copy the Surge with something like Frigga, the Frigga will trigger the next ability. But let's say you got the Surge back with the Frigga, and the next turn you drew an Ant-Man. Well, the Ant-Man will get the buff from the Frigga being played. But if you play Ant-Man and Frigga on that next turn, sorry, Ant-Man and Surge on that next turn, the next card will keep that chain going. It'll only have one because it'll only count the Ant-Man of that, not the actual Surge of that. So even if you somehow get a copy of Surge or do anything weird with Surge that you can think of with Surge, I have not found a good way of getting the chain to work twice. Even if you play it on a longer one-like effect, your next card will be 2 less and be 2 more power, but the chain will still stop there. So that's kind of what makes this card go really down. Is to a certain degree, it's a good thing because you really locked this card into basically not having these broken chains happen. But I think a lot of people, when they originally saw this card, saw it as having these broken chains that could happen with stuff like Kitty Pryde and Deathpool and Beast and Frigga and everything else like that. And it just doesn't work with pretty much any of those interactions at this time. And might not work with any of those interactions in the future. So that's what really bangs it down to that 2-star rating, because it's still really good. It's a better version of Psylocke. It's legitimately a better version of Psylocke. And if you play this card as a better version of Psylocke, for most intents and purposes, you're going to be happy. But that's how you got to view this card, is as a better version of Psylocke. Anyways, I want to thank you all so much for watching, and as always, remember, play for fun.